her ways or feel a way about him.
Right.
Would she say that she felt like she was vindicated in us divorcing? I don't know. But
right.
Say that to say, she and I used to argue a lot because of that. Right. And not necessarily him all the time, but because of me having to change our dynamic to date him or when I was dating him.
Right.
And whenever that would happen, I would call my ex and complain and be like, yo, you know, and my mom, like, I'm tired of her saying this, and this, and her not doing this, and this, and her not doing this, and this, to a point where there was a point where my ex, again, it infected him so much so that he started having like certain feelings and having a certain perception of my mother.
Right. Yeah.
And like, I can see how that then would have affected the relationship between he and my mother once we were serious. Because in his mind, he's going off of, well, Afiya complained about you not doing A, B, C, and D for her, or, you know, not acknowledging her as A, or, you know, not respecting B or whatever, that he started to grow this kind of like, well, if your mom, if arguing with your mother made you feel this way, I'm going to go ahead and have those same feelings that you had in that moment of complaining to me to your mom. And the only difference is, of course, with me downloading that and saying, whew, I got that off my chest, I was able to kind of process that as it was.
Right.
Whereas he didn't get the opportunity to do that. So he would walk around with like this lingering feeling towards her.
Right.
And a good portion of our relationship in the very beginning was not about how well can we grow together as a couple and whatever. It was, your mom doesn't let you do this and your mom doesn't let you do that. And, you know, because it was an issue to be out at a certain time of the night with him, and every time, you know, it's past the time, why can't she just get over this and get over that and get over this? And so a lot, you will find that a good chunk of our time when we were together was overshadowed by
the shadow of your mother,
the shadow of my mom. So I feel like the same thing with Damien and Paul. It's like, you don't want that to happen, because again, it infects, it corrupts. And that's the word I really want to use. It corrupts the relationship, because then you're going to find that maybe at some point Damien is going to resent that Paul is talking to him so much about this family drama and be like, fuck it, I don't want to hear about your family. Or every time that Paul does call him or reaches out to him to talk, Damien's going to automatically feel like, shit, it's to talk about his family again. And I don't want the bullshit. So Damien may just decide, I'm not going to pick up the phone today because I don't want to hear it. I don't feel it. I'm not.
I can't. And Damien is good with that. Like, he's good with setting those boundaries and being like, not today. Like, even with me and other people.
And I feel like that's, and I honestly think like that's what really the real fix for that. And again, I'm not a therapist either. You're not a therapist. But seeing and hearing the situation, I feel like the real fix for that is all about boundaries. It has to be set where Damien lets Paul know, like, listen, I understand that this is going, but I can't listen to you discuss your shit with your family. I get that they are a part of you. They are a huge part of who you are.
Right.
And what you've become and what you've made of yourself, both the good and the bad.
Right.
But we can't take that on together. That is something that you have to work out with them. I can't take that on, and I think we need to set that boundary that whenever you feel, I'm here for you to be a sounding board, and I'm here for you to let some of that shit go. But please also understand that I'm here for you. I'm not here for you and your family. I'm not here for your trauma with your family, your dysfunction with your family. I'm not here for that. I didn't sign up for that. Which brings back to, kind of like circles back to me talking about my ex, because people love to say like, well, that's what you married into. You know, when you get with somebody, well, again, it's that mentality. Well, when you marry someone, you marry their family. Or when you're with someone, you marry, you know, when you get together with this person, you're taking all of what comes with them, including the crazies and the this and the that of the family. And it's like, to some degree, you take on some of that knowing only because you are going to be integrated in some effect, in some way or shape or the other. you're going to be integrating and mixing in with these folks.
Yeah,
right?
Of course. Yeah.
You know, you get married, you get an in-law.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
But is it my responsibility to constantly check my in-laws for my partner? No.
Right.
Is it my responsibility to constantly be there for my partner because my in-law is doing something to them?
Right.
I can't be a shield.
Yeah.
For that shit. Like
you
and you know, and like Damien, he can't be a shield. He can't always be the shelter.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's basically, once you do that, then it's like that's Paul setting himself up for like every relationship that he's going to be in, that he's going to need somebody to be a shelter.
Right.
And that's not what you're in the relationship for. It's not, you're not there to try and find a shelter. You're there to build a shelter with someone else.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And you know, and the thing is, like, I've hung out with them as a couple and have talked to Paul, and even I would say the few times that we really get into these great conversations, because he's a great conversationalist, but he does talk about his family a lot, and it's really interesting, this dysfunction. So you want to hear it, and he has a very interesting way of processing it, because he did mention that he was in therapy and stuff like that, but you can tell that it's something that is it's something that he's tethered to, and I think what it is like a lot of ethnic cultural people, like, I mean cultural in the sense that, you know, like if you're like Guyanese, you're Trinidadian, or even like Black American, you know, for us, the idea of family is so important. Like,
it's so
important.
Important.
You're Italian, you know, family's important.
Family's everything. There's some cultures where it's like, if you can't handle my family, then we can't be together.
And you know what? And the thing is, if you come from a good support system, like, I'm happy to say that I do come from a good family. Every family has their own dysfunction and their shit, but for the most part, at a foundational level, like my family, we come together, we take care of each other, especially when it's important and when the shit hits the fan. So if that's the case, okay. But if you're saying that to someone or to me or to you, and you come from dysfunction, then bye.
Keep the dysfunction.
You can
over
go
there.
away. And some people they get lost in the idea of, I call it the family myth. You know, that because you share blood and DNA with someone, that you have to deal with them and love them. And I think that that's bullshit. And I like that now as a society, we're starting to move away from that, because that's dangerous. And that's the reason why we got so many fucked up people out there, because we thought, oh, well, I got to stay around Uncle so-and-so, even though he exposed himself to me. Or I got to deal with cousin so-and-so, even though she's like a fucking borderline comorbid mess. And what? Because we share a grandmother? Like, fuck that. You know, so I think that was something that I tried to communicate with Damien, and I hope that he's able to communicate with his partner, because his partner is reasonable. They're both reasonable people. I just think it's something that's difficult for a lot of people to navigate, and it can be frustrating, and it could be... And how do you talk about that with someone who has scars and doesn't know how to take that kind of constructive criticism well? I guess you just take the chance, tell them about it, they deal, you show them that you're there for them, and but they still have to deal with what you said, because you have to protect yourself. Because 9 times out of 10, I think, and I wonder if this is with them, but I think that, or in some way I know, that when you are emotionally and psychologically abused, specifically by your family members and your parents or whatever, you perpetuate that. And so... So I'm wondering, in what kind of ways is that perpetuated in their relationship? You know, and so now the best way to navigate that would be communication. And if you don't know how to communicate, then that's your ass. You'll get devoured, and you'll get sucked in. And jeez, wow, this is a lot to unpack.
It is. It's
a lot to unpack.
It's absolutely a lot to unpack.
It is,
because you can look in that relationship with Damien and Paul, and you can see that, like, a lot of why I believe Paul is reaching out to Damien in that way is because the trauma is so deep, and because it's so deep and it's so vast. It seems to me that he was basically brought up in a situation where he didn't feel like he could confide in anybody.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and as you said, it's that family myth. It's a lot of that has to do with that family myth, because there are people who are in abusive and abusive families, and again, it could be emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, even physically. People maintain those relationships and those ties to those people because of that myth of this is your family, and this, you know, regardless of what anyone in your family does to you, that is still blood, and you know, blood should be thicker than water. And so it's toxic. Like, because of that, when you're in it, you have to like create these kind of psychological blocks and boundaries for yourself
and coping mechanisms
and so Paul is in a point, I'm getting the impression anyway that Paul is at this point where it's like he's feeling that he's found someone in Damien to finally let out a lot of that reserved, repressed, you know, anguish. The problem is of course he's kind of repeating the cycle in a way where it's like when these people, you know, imparted all of this bullshit onto him, he's now kind of imparting that bullshit onto someone else, even though he's not intentionally, like, he's not doing it intentionally. Right. You know, but the thing is, again, like I said, you can't continue to infect, you can't continue to corrupt. Like, the relationship can't be solely me. But in Paul's defense, he grew up in a household where everyone was me.
Exactly.
And so because he grew up or was a part of a family, was a part of a dynamic where the elders and the relatives and the siblings were all me. He spent so much time being them that when he gets into his own relationship, unintentionally, me.
Right. And
this is what's happening to me.
Exactly.
I feel like this. This is happening to me. These are my feelings and my feelings, and I need somebody to hear me.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're definitely onto something, because I got the feeling that that's what's a part of it.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, you know, and what I will say, in seeing them interact, like they, you know, Paul is very giving, like he'll get the shirt off his back, but like what you're saying, you're talking about something that's much more deeper. Like you're talking about an emotional
emotional
me, which I think is so it's kind of deep, because like together he, you know, Paul gives Damon so many things, like he is giving. But emotional me. I think we should term it. Yes,
emotional
I think
me.
You're an emotional me, or he was emotionally.
I think that's what that is. And I mean, like, I sympathize with that, because a lot of people, again, they aren't aware that's what it was. And I feel like, to bring it back with me, not to be me, but you know, with my ex, I wasn't emotionally me. Like I was just talking to him, and I did, you know, every time that I get angry about something, the first thing I do is call somebody to vent about it, as opposed to just processing it myself. Right. You know, and that's because you know, you're used to not processing things because you got to worry so much about everybody else's feelings that you don't take time to process your own feelings. Right. And I think that's where that emotional me comes from. I don't get time to process how I feel about something, so I just, you know, if someone complains or argues about something, I go, you know what, fine, I'll do whatever you want me to do, whatever makes you happy. When I then get a moment to just vent, it's me being an emotional me. I'm just complaining because, you know, I didn't get my way, and blah, blah. And I actually had to learn how to shut that off. And I think that's what's going to have to happen with Paul. Like, he's going to have to be aware or become aware. And as you said, like, he already started showing signs of that.
Exactly. Yeah, Paul was like waking up and getting his
waking up. Yeah, you know, you got to start becoming aware and realizing that, let me process how I'm feeling in this moment and not make it about me when I'm with my partner. Right. Because then all you're doing is perpetuating it's an emotional me, and you're expecting your partner to do the thing for you that you are doing for the people who are shutting out, who are disregarding your emotions and your thoughts and your ability to process things. And then that cycle just continues. Yes. And I think what it all breaks down to is, again, Damien kind of just like setting these boundaries with his partner, and then Paul also having to be more emotionally aware of what he's doing
right,
and how to kind of break that cycle. And it's going to be hard because if that's all he knows, from people in his family, again, projecting that onto him, that's all he knows. That's his first, and not to sound like a therapist, but his first experience with, expressing his, emotionality or his emotional being was it's to be repressed.
Yes.
In favor of someone else.
Exactly. And you know what I will say?